What is up, guys? It is Styx here, and today I'm going to be going over a pretty sick build for Oblivion Remastered. This build has existed since original Oblivion, but the way you want to play through it is going to be a little bit different because a few of the more gameplay altering bugs have been removed, as well as there being new found bugs and stuff like that. So for a proper Atronach build that makes it as potent and as powerful as possible, you are going to want to likely start with a high elf. You can also use a breton. However, the resistance to magic kind of overlaps with the spell absorption that we are going to be maxing out, and as such becomes less useful. And they also have a lower total magicka increase and a lower endurance, which is very important for the build. Alright, and now that we have butternut crinkle fries here, we can get through the tutorial and figure out what kinds of things we will need from this. By the way, if you were ever curious about how I get through lockpicking so easily, I do have a video on that. I can put it on the screen right now. Make sure you grab all these ingredients on your way. Grab this mortar and pestle, it would be our best friend this run. It doesn't really matter a whole lot, but you can avoid using this trap for a little bit of that extra XP in blade or destruction, whatever you want, really. At some point, you're going to end up running out of inventory space. I recommend just dropping the katana because it gets taken away from you at the end of the mission anyway. And by my understanding, you don't really get anything extra by holding onto it. Alright, so once we're here, we're going to pick the Atronach sign. Reason for this is it increases our magicka by 150 points, which is a nerf from previous games, but still pretty nice. Gives us a 50% chance of absorbing spells cast at us, but it completely halts all magicka regeneration. By my understanding, there's no way you can increase your magic regeneration to overcome this. It's just always going to not happen. We have some ways around this though. We're going to make a custom class here. We're going to go with combat. You're going to go with strength and endurance. We're going with mostly melee here. If you want, you can also go with endurance and intelligence if you are wanting to go pure mage. I'm going to be using a little bit of both, but I'm going to be able to improve my intelligence pretty easily, so I'm not too worried about which of these that I pick. It's just the ones that are going to be the most useful immediately. These are going to be the 7 major skills that I choose, mostly because they are not as easy to level up, but are also very, very, very useful to have leveled up. Athletics is more of like, I just want this to be as high as possible right now. And now we are the Professor Odd class. Another little recommendation here, try and make a save for right after you get out of the tutorial, or rather for right before you get out of the tutorial, since you can reset everything here. It makes it a little bit easier to make other characters. You will probably have noticed by now, but I'm using a little bit of a lighting mod. It's called Reshade, and it basically just restores some of the Oblivion color scheme from the original. If you notice anything might be slightly different here, I didn't change any proper stuff with mods, just a few optimization things to make sure the game runs better on my computer. And I think I changed one of the UI elements that was annoying, like the hit markers or something. Alright, so now we've gotten out of the tutorial, we're going to kill these bandits, because they're going to be a little bit annoying if we don't. And our primary goal here is going to actually be the clearing out of this dungeon right here, because this has a bunch of Welkin stones, which would be really nice for our non-magicka regenerating selves. So these guys are not going to be very difficult unless you're playing on like expert or something. They're really just standard bandits. Just check out for the traps that are, while very easy to see if you just run through this place, you might forget that they're there. If you run out of inventory space in here, just pull out your mortar and pestle and get to work. And that should free up some of your space almost immediately. If with whatever build you have, you level up, you can just sleep right in the middle of the dungeon. They removed the requirement to boost up a certain stat before you can +5 it, so keep that in mind. Nice little trick you can do on one of these, by the way. I want you to pay attention to my security level. Now, that was about 2 minutes of me spamming a button. If you want to figure out how to do that, I have a shortcut. Once you have exited the dungeon, you should have roughly 19 Welkin stones and a Varla stone, at least. And then you can now just head over to the Imperial Market District and sell off some of your potions and turn a bunch of your other ingredients into potions and just make more magic potions or whatever, level up your alchemy a bit. Sell off your dead weight. A couple of easy tips for this kind of area. In a lot of the sacks and crates, there's repair hammers, which, while not very useful to grab later in the game, most of the merchants here will try to sell them to you for like 15 to 20 gold, so you might as well grab the like 7 that are free and easy that are in these sacks and crates. In addition to that, in the carafe, I think it's pronounced, you can sneak upstairs really easily, and as long as you can lockpick the door, you can steal a bunch of raw chemical stuff, and you can start out with all of the alchemy attachments that make your potions more effective for at least the novice level. I don't want to drag for too long, so the general next spot we're going to is west of Skingrad. This is going to be a nice little location called Firelight Cave. You're going to want to go in through this sort of more southern extra entrance, and then you're going to follow me along as you hug the right side of the wall and look for a trapdoor. Once you get to the trapdoor, you're going to want to create a save or quick save, doesn't really matter, whatever is easiest for you. I made a save and then quick saved on top of it. Then you are going to want to enter this trapdoor and look to your left. There will be a chest that is locked, at least provided it's been 3 days since you last did this dungeon, or you haven't done the dungeon yet. You can do this on an ongoing playthrough, it will work. You just have to make sure it's been over 3 days since you last interacted with the chest, because that's how long it takes for it to respawn the loot inside. So you check the loot, and what you are looking for is a necklace of spell absorption. If you don't get the necklace of spell absorption, it's very easy, just load your previous save, come back in, and unlock the chest. It should be relatively common. I did this for like 20 minutes and one showed up. Once you have gotten an amulet of spell absorption from the chest, you will then just leave, and you can keep note of this location. You can grab this, it has some gold in it usually. Keep note of this location for the next time you want to come and get some loot, because once we hit level 20, which happens fairly quickly with this build, but if you ever want to not have to do that, then that's also completely fine. But once you hit level 20, we will be going for an item called the Sorcerer's Ring. Now, there are ways to farm your way to level 20 through any manner of things, but they are not required, so I'm not going to force you to do that. Instead, we are going to go and make this build a little bit more interesting, because right now we have absorption to pretty much, I think it's about 64% of all magic, which is rather significant. It basically means that mages will do a little above 30% damage to us. But we want that to be even worse for both mages and for melee combatants, because right now I'm just in some iron armor. But what if there was a way to get better armor and to get a better weapon? I introduce to you Umbra. We're going right here, right now. Turn around from the waterfront, go straight towards your marker. Once you see on your compass that Vindasal is highlighted, you're going to want to go on and run in there. Once you're in here, just run past everything and avoid the traps. Taking a wide berth in most of the rooms should be helpful for that. And once you are up to the point of dealing with Umbra, there's a pretty helpful thing you can do here. It'll be helpful if your difficulty is lower, but it is possible in higher difficulties. Just keep in mind that it'll take longer because she has more health. And she regenerates, so on some difficulties, depending on your damage, you might not even be able to do it. All right, we're gonna sit right here. We're gonna stand right here, and now she can't do anything. We're just gonna sit here and shoot at her. And now we have a full set of ebony armor at level 6. Needless to say, we're looking quite strong right now. In addition to that, we have the weapon, Umbra. So you have all of this defense in addition to around 60-something% spell absorption. The next thing we are going to want to be going with, or rather the next thing we're going to want to utilize is the campaign. Most notably, we are going to want to use the very first stone you get in the campaign. So if you want to use this, wait until you get to Kvatch. While you're here, by the way, make sure you are grabbing as many of these plants as you can, even the hostile ones. Alright, gamers, and once you are here at the Sigil Stone, at the end of the Oblivion Gate for Kvatch, you are going to quick save, then you are going to grab the Sigil Stone, wait for it to take you out of the gate. I guess you could check now, but you want to go and check the stone. because it'll tell you what's on it. It'll tell you what the achievement is already. So this is light on self. So you want to repeatedly reload and grab the stone until it says absorption on self, spell absorption on self. So once it's spell absorption, this is a low level sigil stone. This sigil stone gives 8% spell absorption. At the highest level, or transcendent sigil stone, transcendent being the absolute highest, will give you upwards of 15% spell absorption. So think about that in the context that if you want to wait until you are around level 20, then you will end up with all transcendent sigil stones, and then you will have 15% each one. But even then, 8% is not a small amount, because you already have 50% from the Atronach stone. You already have another 14% on top of that from your necklace. So with 8% spell absorption, you are going to be really knocking on the door of magic is not going to do anything but fuel you. And then with the number of Welkin stones and potions in the game, you're not going to have to worry about magicka running out on your own either. So to put it simply, if you have the Sorcerer's Ring, which is a level 20 magic item that drops at the Skin Grad chest I showed you guys earlier, an Amulet of Absorption, any level of it really, or the amulet you get from during the Mage's questline. I think it's like the 9th quest, but that takes a long time, so I didn't want to show that immediately. It wasn't something you could easily farm out in towards the beginning of the game, because leveling up can be really, really fast, especially if with this same build you took alchemy as a major skill. And then a singular sigil stone. This is the second to lowest level of the sigil stone. So if you hit a higher level and then come to Kvatch and do your sigil stone, guess what? You have 100% spell absorption, and you are on one of the opening main quests, and you will barely have needed to start any other quest lines. You are currently absorbing 100% of all magic. Unless, of course, your necklace hits that 25%, in which case all you need is the necklace and the ring. And the Sorcerer's Ring, in addition to that current effect, also gives a nice old 25 extra points of Fortify Magicka, which brings your Magicka total to around... So it increases your Magicka by a total of around 300, because Ultima already increases it by 100, then Atronach increases it by 150, and then Sorcerer's Ring increases it by another 25. So that'll be 275 extra magicka. Needless to say, this sign, this birth sign, gets a lot more flack than it really needs, and it is extremely good if you even just get a couple items to build into it. Especially if you play into it the whole way, you can make, I think, some really interesting characters with this. And I think it's really cool. I am planning on doing an unarmed setup that I think will be really fun. So stay tuned for that and subscribe for that if you want to watch it. And thanks for hanging out, guys. Peace.